Hello, everyone. It is exactly noon, so it's time to kick this thing off. I'm going to give everyone a few seconds to join because I see attendees flooding in through the Zoom. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're excited to join. I'm really excited. I'm as excited as this deputy on a bike, which is a picture that just makes me so incredibly happy inside. I love this picture. All right. So as more people join, I'm just going to get us kicked off here. Today, we are talking about reciprocity and service credit purchases. I'll describe how each can help you maximize your retirement benefit. I am Andy Jokers, and I'm the communications manager for SD Sarah. Today, I'm joined by Long Mai, who's our active benefits manager. He'll be on hand to answer any of your questions at the end of this presentation. This is part of our Wednesday webinar series. We offer a countdown to retirement webinar twice a month leading up to April. And at the end of the month, we'll have a guest from Nationwide join us to discuss tapping into your deferred compensation. So if you're interested in either one of those webinars as well, please sign up on our webinar page on sdsarah.org. All right, before we dive in, I need to do some light Zoom housekeeping for you. This is a webinar platform, so you don't have access to your mics or cameras if you're wondering why you don't see those buttons on your screen. There is a Q&A box on your screen, and that's the feature we'll be using to answer any of your questions. Please enter them in there and review other attendees' questions before you ask your own. That way you can upvote them if you want something to be answered, or you can comment on other questions if you have a related topic. There is a chat function, but please don't put any questions in there because we really won't look at it. Last but not least, this webinar is being recorded. A day or two after we're done here, I'll email you a copy of this slide deck that we're going over today, as well as a link to the recording so you can watch it as many times as you want. I know you'll just have it on repeat in the back all day, every day, because who doesn't love reciprocity and service credit purchases? Let's kick it off with a poll. Let me ask you, what are you most interested in learning today? Do you want to know about reciprocity? Do you want to learn about service credit purchases? Or maybe you are here for both. I'll give you a couple seconds to answer. It's good, as much as we can get both. That's wonderful. That means people are sticking in through the long haul. First, we'll be covering reciprocity, just so you know, and then we'll be talking about service credit purchases. Okay. Couple more seconds if you want to put in those answers. And I'm going to end the poll now and share the results. It looks like 53% of us are interested in both, which is great. That means you're sticking with us through the whole presentation. 21% want to learn about reciprocity. 26% are just here for the service credit purchases. So sorry, you'll have to hang on a little bit longer. Moving on to our first topic. We want to make sure you're getting the most out of your retirement benefit, and establishing reciprocity or purchasing service credit may help. For each of these topics, we'll break down who is eligible, what it can do for you, and how to get started. Just so you know, I'll be saying the county throughout the presentation as shorthand for all SD Sarah employers. So all this information is the same, whether you work for the county, Superior Court, Office of Education, etc. First up is reciprocity. If you're not sure what reciprocity is, it's a jargony word, meaning you can link your current SD Sarah benefits with benefits from certain California public agencies. And here's the full list. Who's eligible? You can establish reciprocity if you worked for one of these agencies listed on the screen. But here's the key. You must have worked for them within 6 months of starting your job with the county. You also had to have kept your contributions on deposit with your previous agency, meaning you didn't take a refund from them. If there was more than a 6-month gap between your work with one of these agencies and your current job, then you may be able to establish limited reciprocity, and we'll get into the differences a little later. I'll leave this up a few more seconds to give you time to scan through it to see if your agency is on the list. Most frequently, we do see people coming from the state of California and CalPERS. You'll notice that everything is in alphabetical order. We do have partnerships with a lot of counties and cities as well. So Sacramento County and City, San Francisco County and City, LA County and City, the big ones, the heavy hitters. All right, let's move on. What can reciprocity do for you? It could affect your pension tier, contribution rate, retirement eligibility, and final average compensation. How so, you ask? When you establish reciprocity, SD Sarah and your previous agency will share information about your career. I'm going to bring in an example to help explain here. Here's an employee we'll call SD Sarah. Sarah is an accountant who used to work for the city of San Diego, which is a reciprocal agency with SD Sarah. After 10 years at the city, she switched jobs and joined the county in 2019. So she's been here for 3 years. I know it's starting to sound like one of those wordy math problems from middle school, but bear with me. How can establishing reciprocity benefit Sarah right now? There are 3 ways. First, it can help her get vested sooner. Typically, it takes 5 years of work to be considered vested with SD Sarah. But since Sarah has reciprocity, we'll count the 10 years she had with the city toward her vesting requirement. She would be vested with us from day 1 starting with the county. Reciprocity in Sarah's case also changes her tier. The only time reciprocity would change your tier is if you worked for your previous agency before 2013. In that case, we'd put you into tier B. But because Sarah worked at the city between 2009 and 2019, she can be placed in tier B. Changing your tier changes what you contribute to your pension and ultimately what you get out of it. And if you've been working with the county for a while, waited to establish reciprocity, and just found out you'll be placed into tier B, we'll retroactively change your contributions. You may have to make additional contributions plus interest, or we may return you contributions. So it's definitely best to establish reciprocity as soon as you can. Finally, this process helps Sarah reach a special benefit for tier 1A and B members. If you're in that group and you've earned 30 years of service credit, you no longer have to pay contributions to your retirement. Sarah's now 10 years closer to her 30-year count because she established reciprocity. Quickly, let me step aside to explain how SD Sarah calculates your pension because it'll help in our ongoing conversation. It's a simple equation that's the same for everyone. It's age factor times service credit times final average monthly compensation. Age factor is based on the age you retire. Service credit is generally the number of years you've worked for the county. And final average monthly compensation is based on your highest salary earned at the county. You can roughly calculate yours by taking your annual salary before taxes and dividing it by 12. So if you multiply all these things up, you'll get an estimate of your monthly pension payment. You can find a lot more information about calculating your pension on our website, sdsarah.org. Or you can find a benefit calculator where you can plug in any numbers of your own. Now let's look at how reciprocity benefits Sarah and you at retirement. Both reciprocal agencies will use her highest salary to calculate her pension, regardless of which system she earned that salary. So Sarah got a pay bump when she came to the county. When she retires, both the county and the city will use her highest county salary to calculate her pension. So it'll boost her county salary or boost her county pension as well as her city pension. For tier 1A and B members, you have to reach a certain number of years to be eligible to retire, and reciprocity can potentially help you meet that eligibility requirement sooner and perhaps allow you to retire earlier. An important point, reciprocity does not boost your service credit. The city and the county would still use the service credit Sarah earned with each respective system to calculate her pensions. When she retires, Sarah and you must retire from both reciprocal agencies on the same date. There is an exception for systems with a higher minimum age requirement. A quick sidebar on limited reciprocity. This is when you have more than a 6-month gap between your county job and the reciprocal agency. Limited reciprocity can help you become vested earlier with SD Sarah, but it cannot change your tier, and your previous agency will use the highest salary you had with them to calculate your pension. How to get started? This is the easy part. You can submit a request for reciprocity form, which can be found at sdsarah.org. Click on the Active Members tab once you're on that website and navigate to the Forms page. All the forms I mentioned during this presentation, and there are a lot, can be found there. Submit this form whether you're coming from a reciprocal agency or leaving the county to go to another agency. You also might want to contact your previous agency to see what they require. Once we link your service, SD Sarah will send you out a confirmation letter. Perhaps you still have a few questions about how reciprocity applies to you. I do encourage you to contact our Member Service Center. They'll be able to look at the specifics of your case and give you the answers you need. All right, quick, we did that. We wrapped up reciprocity so fast. Let's stand up, stretch, and I'll break things up with another poll before we move on to the next section. So for the second half, what type of service credit purchase are you most interested in? Is it redepositing withdrawn contributions, service before SD Sarah membership, sick leave without pay, prior public agency work, or military leave without pay? Maybe you're not sure what each of those are. We will definitely get into the specifics of each coming up. Again, stretch it out, get energized for round two. Give everyone a couple more seconds to answer. All right, I'll end the poll here and share out the results. Looks like we are evenly split actually between service before SD Sarah membership, sick leave without pay, and prior public agency work. Those are the topics that are of most interest to you. Good to know moving forward. The next half of our presentation will be a deep dive into service credit purchases. Service credit's very important because, as we discussed, it's one of the 3 factors SD Sarah uses to calculate your pension. The higher your service credit, the higher your monthly payment will be in retirement. Typically, service credit, again, is the number of years you've worked for the county. But there are 5 circumstances in which you can buy service credit. I'll explain each, who is eligible, and how to get started. Just so you know, you should complete all your service credit purchases before you retire. Delaying could mean you pay more in interest. And if you're in tier 1A and B, service credit purchases can be used toward meeting that 30-year mark when you don't have to pay any more retirement contributions, which is a very nice benefit. Let's dig into the first service credit purchase, redepositing withdrawn contributions. This is for folks who've become a SD Sarah member for a second time. When you leave the county and haven't reached retirement age, you can either leave your retirement contributions on deposit with us with the expectation that one day you'll get a pension, or you can take a refund of your contributions. So this service credit purchase applies to those who've taken that refund, but then have come back to work for the county. If you want to restore service credit from your first period of membership, you have to redeposit your refunded contributions and all your interest. And then you also have to pay the interest your account would have accrued had you left your contributions with us. You cannot purchase partial service credit under this option. You must redeposit all your prior contributions and interest. To get started, submit a form called Purchase Service Credit Redeposit, which can be found on our website under that Active Members tab. If you originally worked for the county under one tier, but then were placed in tier C or D when you re-entered, you may be able to be brought back into that original tier. And redepositing contributions may also help you retire sooner if you're in tier 1A or B to meet that eligibility requirement. So call us if you want more details on this. Our second type of credit purchase is service before membership. Perhaps you worked as a temporary, hourly, or part-time employee for the county. While working part-time, you can't be an SDSARA member, but if you were hired on full-time later, you can buy service credit for the time spent as a temporary employee. A good example of this would be a student worker. However, you must have been directly employed by the county, not by a temp agency. The service credit cost in this case is based on your SDSARA contribution rate from when you first became a full-time employee. We take that contribution rate and multiply it by any wages you earned during your temporary work. You will also pay interest, which is based on the time between when you became an SDSARA member and when you pay for your service credit. Employer paid contributions in this case don't apply. Get started with a form called Purchase Service Credit Service Prior to Membership, again, on our website. We get this question asked a lot, so I'm going to answer it here. Can you purchase the time between your hire date and your SDSARA entry date, which is typically about a month? The answer is no, you can't purchase that time. On to the third type of service credit purchase, sick leave without pay. Sometimes life requires that you take a few weeks or a few months off work for your health, and you may not have enough vacation or sick time to cover that absence. So you have to take unpaid leave. While you're on unpaid leave, you do not earn service credit, but you may be able to buy it back when you return to work. A couple of caveats here. The sick leave must be for your own illness or injury, and your absence if your absence was more than 12 consecutive months, you can only purchase back 12 months worth of service credit. Again, you must return to active paid status at work before you make this purchase. The cost is the contributions you would have paid during your leave plus any interest. Again, employer paid contributions don't apply here. To get started, submit a form called Purchase Service Credit Sick Leave Without Pay. If you can't remember your exact leave dates, you can contact us and we'll let you know which dates you might be missing service credit. All right, our second to last service credit purchase, prior public agency work. This is different from reciprocity. You can establish reciprocity if you'll receive a pension from your prior public agency. However, if you won't receive a retirement benefit from them, you may be able to at least get service credit. This applies to you if you worked for one of these organizations, federal agencies like the Postal Service, Peace Corps, or AmeriCorps, the state of California, any city in San Diego County, and any public district in the county. Prior military service, volunteer time, or unpaid service is not eligible. The cost of this service credit is a bit complicated, so I'll take you through it. We take the first contribution rate you had at the county and multiply it by your first hourly rate and by the months you worked for your prior agency. So we'll take all that and multiply it by 2 and then add interest. Just so you know, this type of service credit does not count toward vesting or retirement eligibility. If you're interested, you can get started with the form called Purchase Service Credit Prior Public Agency. You also need to get documentation from your previous employer verifying that you worked for them and that you won't receive a retirement benefit from them. Make sure to get all your supporting documentation over to us. And we know that with big employers like the federal government, it may be hard to get a hold of your employment documentation. So when I send this out, you'll be able to click on the hyperlinks on this page, and hopefully those links will help you get started with agencies we frequently see requests from. Now, our final service credit purchase, military leave without pay. The county gives employees 30 paid days per year for military service, but if you have to take unpaid leave, you may be able to get service credit after you're honorably discharged. There are requirements that you have to return to the county within a certain time frame. If you're in Tier 1, A, and B, your employer may pay for the service credit, and Tier C and D members can purchase it themselves. The cost is the contributions you would have paid during your unpaid leave plus interest, and it's based on your hourly rate before you go on military leave. To get started, again, complete a form called Purchase Service Credit Military Service. And you must include a copy of your military discharge certificate, and that would be a DD Form 214 or its equivalent. Okay, a few final points on this. We recommend that before making any moves, you should compare the cost with how much it'll increase your pension to make sure it makes financial sense. You should definitely discuss it with your financial or tax advisor. When you request service credit from us, we'll mail you a packet that includes the cost, how much service credit you'll receive, and payment options. We'll give you 2 pension estimates with your packet. One shows your pension with the service credit purchase, and the other shows it without it. That way, you know that that purchase will be worth it in the long run. If you decide to move ahead, you can pay for your service credit through check, through a retirement account rollover, or if you're an active employee, you can pay through payroll deduction, and that would be post-tax. Again, all service credit purchases must be completed prior to retirement. Now, the longer you wait to start a credit purchase, the more expensive it'll be because we are required to add interest every year. And we add that interest at the end of June and the end of December. Whew, that was incredibly speedy. We covered a lot of territory. Thank you so much for hanging with me to the bitter end. I do have one final poll for you. Let me pull it up here. After hearing about all the options, which will you pursue on? Just the question, will you pursue? You can answer, you can check more than one if you are going to do both reciprocity and service credit purchase. Maybe you've learned enough and you're like, nah, not for me. Maybe you're still not sure. If you're still not sure, we do have a great knowledgeable member service center, and their information is on your screen right now. msc@sdsarah.org is the email. 515-6800 is the phone number. They'll be able to really dig into the specifics of your case because maybe you're just not sure how much leave you're qualified for, or, you know, if your agency even qualifies for reciprocity. We can help you find those answers for sure. Let's end the poll. And I'll share out the results. 23% are interested in reciprocity. 51% are interested in moving forward with the service credit purchases. 13% say I'm good. And 27% still not sure. Again, hopefully we can help find those answers for you. Let me close that out. I do want to open it up to some general questions right now. If you do have specific questions related to your case, I really do encourage you to call our member service center. I'm also going to bring in Long Mai, our active benefits manager. He will be on hand to help me answer the questions. If you have questions, go ahead and put them in that Q&A box. Again, not the chat. Hey, Long, do we have you on?
I am available. It looks like I can't turn off my video here or turn it on. Oh, here we go.
All right, there you are. Hello.
Hello, everyone. I tried to answer some of the questions here during the presentation here. It looks like we have a lot of interest and a lot of questions, so that's great. I'll try to go over some of the unanswered ones here, and then maybe kind of, if we have some more time, go back to some of the answered ones, and then just give a little bit more detail.
So do you want me to I'll go ahead and read them off for you.
Sure.
The first one is how to sell back sick leave and vacation hours when retiring. Not really specific to service credit purchases or anything, but a good question.
Yeah, so it's kind of a little hard for me to get this understanding this question, but I think you're referring to when you're terminating and you have an extra sick leave balance or vacation balance. Mm-hmm. If that's the case, depending on your membership and benefit tier, and then also your bargain unit, you could choose to convert those extra sick leave hours to count towards your retirement. And then in addition to that, for your vacation hours, you would want to check with your HR and payroll department because they have a different number of options in terms of how you could choose to cash out those vacation hours, such as rolling it over to your deferred compensation plan. Perhaps you want to use it to take additional vacation before actually retiring. I know that in some rare instances, there are options to take like a lump sum payment during your career too as well. It's just a question for your payroll department in HR.
Thank you. What if you were full-time and then went part-time? Can you buy service credit then?
Good question. So I think if the question is if you were working part-time, say if you were working 20 hours per week or 40 hours each pay period, the question is, can you buy the additional time that you would have worked if you were full-time, such as working 80 hours per pay period? That answer for that is no. What you will be accruing as a part-time employee is that you would be getting 20 hours of service credit per week or 40 hours for that pay period. You cannot purchase that additional time to make you full-time up.
Thank you. After 30 years of service credit, there are no contributions to SD Sarah. Does this include a break in service time or as a deferred member?
This does the 30-year of service credit does not include any breaks in service. When we look at your 30 years of service credit, it's just really what you accrued with SD Sarah while you were a member and working. So as soon as you hit that 30 years of SD Sarah service credit, including any reciprocal service credit that would be included, we would stop your contributions the pay period following. So any gaps in between would not be counted.
Thank you. I have 3 years before retirement. Can I purchase service credit to get there faster? That would be nice.
That would be nice. Unfortunately, we do not offer any service purchases for that. But if you feel that you might have some sort of eligibility for one of the 5 ones that were listed, I do recommend calling in and checking with us in case if there are some opportunities.
Would 2 years of Peace Corps service count as 2 years of county service?
The answer is yes. However, I would have a disclaimer whenever it's, you're dealing with a PPA, prior public agency purchase for Peace Corp time. You want to make sure that you are not in a volunteer position, that you are actually in a paid position, because that's one of the requirements for a prior public agency purchase. You can't be in a volunteered position.
How long do you have to be at a pay rate before it's considered for your final retirement pay? That might require a little bit of clarification from Janet.
Let me see here. Well, that one's a tricky question. What I would recommend for that one is calling into our member service center to get a little bit more details. I would probably just ask them specific for your individual case, and they can take a look at your exact earnings and help you better assist you with that question. I could probably go in a number of different answers for that one.
Thank you. When calculating final average compensation, if you have regular pay and a 5% premium, do they calculate the total compensation regular pay plus premium, or is it only calculated with regular pay?
I would also, again, recommend for this one, calling into our member service center. They can look exactly and see what is counted towards your final average compensation. I believe that 5% it's depending also on your benefit tier. But I can't say off the top of my head for that one.
Yeah. There are some cases in which premium pay is counted in final average compensation, but not always. If I complete the request for cost of purchasing service prior to membership form, can I still review it and decide later whether to purchase, or does the form start the process?
Yes, the answer is yes. What we'll do is we'll send just like Andy had shown as an example. That's good for you. You'll sign that election form and submit that back into us if you want to purchase. If you don't want to purchase it at that time, you can always call and request it at a later time with us, but you want to make sure that you purchase before your retirement date. What we find is sometimes, people start getting a little antsy for retirement, and then they find that they're eligible for a service purchase, but they're already in the process of retiring and they can't complete it before their retirement. And we can't allow for you to complete a payment after your retirement.
Thank you. Could you please provide the formula for purchasing service credit? Mimi, could you clarify which type of service credit you are looking for, please? Because there are a couple different calculations. She also asked if a student worker wanted to buy their service credit, how would they calculate that credit? And maybe that is actually the answer to the question.
Perfect. Yeah. We can go back to this slide for this one, but overall, what we do is we take your overall earnings that you made as a student worker, and then we will multiply that by your first contribution rate. So let's say if your first contribution rate was like 6% or something like that, and you had $5,000 worth of earnings, that's going to be the cost for it. And then the longer, if you delay purchasing that time, every 6 months, we will add an additional interest cost for that time.
Thank you. I worked for the City of San Diego Police. Does that count for the City of San Diego?
If you're referring for reciprocity, the answer is yes. The City of San Diego is with SD SIRS. I would recommend sending in like a request for reciprocity form with us. And then we'll take a look and we'll work with the city to making sure that you qualify and sending you a confirmation letter and contacting you after.
I worked part-time during college for a local public high school. Are they considered a public agency in which I can apply for work service credit?
I believe the answer is yes for that one. As long as it's within the county of a public college within the San Diego County, then it should qualify. However, I would recommend first maybe checking to see if you do qualify for a retirement benefit, maybe with their university and system first. What we find is sometimes that somebody may qualify for like a CalSTRS or a CalPERS retirement with them, and that would then fall with reciprocity potentially. But you can definitely check with this.
Awesome. What's the benefit of public service prior to membership purchase if it doesn't count toward vesting?
I'm sorry, can you say that one again?
Sure. What's the benefit of public service prior to membership purchase if it doesn't count toward vesting?
Okay. So I think what you're referring to for that one, Daniel, is a prior public agency purchase, and not a service prior to membership purchase.
Because the service prior to membership purchase. Oh, sorry, he's correct. Yeah.
Okay. So just like Andy was explaining, prior public agency purchase will still increase your service credit. And that's one of the three main factors that we use to calculate your benefit. So if you want to have a higher benefit when you retire, that would be an option. And like I would recommend for everyone here that's listening, if you are at least eligible for any of our service purchases, my recommendation is to reach out to SD Sarah and at least get that cost of what it would be and what impact that would be for your benefit, because it won't cost you anything to get that information from SD Sarah. And then with that information, then at least you'll know, hey, this might be worth my while, or maybe not something I'm interested in, but you got the answer for it.
In my mid-30s, have about 1 year of service that I could purchase from previously working as a student worker for the county. If service credit doesn't get me closer to retirement, is there any reason I should buy it? I'm already in tier B. So it goes back to the answer you kind of just gave.
Exactly. Again, I would recommend at least getting the cost for it and then seeing how much of impact it will have in increasing your retirement benefit. What we do when we counsel our members who are questioning whether to purchase or not, how much of it will increase your benefit and how long would it take you to potentially get that cost back, whether it's 5 years of your retirement and then everything after that, you'll be getting more in your increased benefit.
Thank you. I'm in tier C safety. I worked part-time for the city of Daly City, San Mateo County. That period was about 2.5 years in the early 80s. If I can obtain employment records from back then, would I be able to purchase service credit for that part-time work when I retire from the county later this year?
That would not qualify for a prior public agency purchase. It's not within one of the 4 categories that Andy went over. If it was a city within the county of San Diego, then that would be one. Or if it was with the state of California. Unfortunately, the city of Daly City is not in that category.
Thank you. You mentioned state of California as other agency. Isn't that under CalPERS reciprocity? So again, do you want to go over that, the distinction between service credit purchase and reciprocity for that?
Yes. So when we say the state of California, it doesn't exactly correlate to CalPERS and their retirement system. The state of California technically is part of the CalPERS retirement system. And that any employment with the state of California would qualify for a prior public agency purchase with us. But you would probably want to continue to first check to see if you can get a retirement benefit through CalPERS first, because what you see is for a prior public agency purchase is it's going to be a little bit more expensive sometimes. And that if you can qualify for a benefit with CalPERS already, then that would be something you might want to look into for reciprocity instead.
Yeah. So just confirming, the service prior to membership service credit purchase does count toward vesting?
Yes, it does.
Let me see. If I left 26 months and came back to the county in the same position, I had 4 years and now have 3 years. Can I purchase service credit?
I'm assuming that's asking if you can purchase the time that you were out away from the county. If that's the case, then you can't purchase that time in between while you're out away from the county. I think
Lyle, if you can add some clarification to that question, that might help.
Yeah, maybe if you can clarify that question a little further, or if you call our member service center, we can help directly assist you over the phone.
I work on call with San Diego Unified Schools. Is this eligible for service credit purchase?
I'm not 100%, but if you're working with San Diego Unified Schools, that is something that would be qualifying under one of our prior public agency purchases. But again, I would check to see if you can qualify with a retirement with CalPERS for San Diego Unified. I know they're covered with CalPERS.
Is sick time only calculated for service time when there's a period without pay? If no time was ever without pay, would it be a different calculation? This is Christine's question.
It is the sick leave time that we're referring to for like a sick leave purchase. I'm having a little difficulty with the question on this one.
So I think so. Yeah, you would only have to, because if you're getting paid for your sick time, you're still earning service credit. Like a regular employment time. The only time you wouldn't be earning service credit is when you're taking sick leave without pay. And so you would want to then buy that service credit back.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that's what Christine means, hopefully. Can you buy back time if you were on leave with right to return to go to school?
That would not be eligible for a purchase. You could only qualify if you were out for a personal illness, injury, or disability for your pregnancy.
Okay, I think, let me scan through it. I think that was all of our questions, hopefully. All right, thank you all so much. Hopefully we answered a lot of your questions. I know this may have stoked more questions in your head, so please feel free to give us a call. Again, I will go back to our final slide. Oops, and I accidentally just exited out of all of it. So let me go back here. And just put up that information one more time so you can see it. Again, our contact information is here on the screen. Email or website at sdsarah.org. Email is msc@sdsarah.org. Phone number 619-515-680. Feel free to give us a call anytime. We did have one more question. Is there a minimum amount of sick time you have to sell back? This is again that question of pre-retirement.
Yes, I think if you're referring to converting it for sick leave conversion, there is a minimum requirement. It depends on your bargaining unit. So you want to check with your HR department. Now, if you were trying to take like a sick leave pay down payment, you should also check with your HR department as well.
All right. Thank you all so much for joining us. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Again, I will be emailing this slide deck as well as a copy of the recording. Please let us know if you have any more questions. Have a great day.
Bye, everyone.